Dinah, a shocking tale of violence and divine redemption unfolds in Jacob's sacred lineage. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the descendants of Jacob were sojourning in the land of Canaan, where the sun painted the landscape with hues of gold and the tents of the families swayed in a gentle breeze. Among them was Dinah, the cherished daughter of Leah, the first wife of Jacob. She was nurtured in the warmth of her mother's love, surrounded by the raucous laughter of her brothers, with the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through the air. Yet beneath that familial joy lay the shadows of rivalry and the remnants of Jacob's past. One bright morning, the call of the unknown tugged at Dinah's heart, propelling her beyond the familiar confines of her father's encampment. Her small feet led her to the bustling streets of Shechem, a city vibrant with life. Here, amidst the colorful stalls adorned with produce and wares, her innocent explorations would intertwine with destiny, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. She marveled at the merchants, their voices rising and falling like waves upon a shore, beckoning her to partake in their lively trade. In those joyful moments, Dinah felt both liberated and alive, each step taking her further from the safety of her kin, but fate turned dark when Shechem, son of Hamor, laid eyes upon her. With smiles as honeyed as the fruits he sold, his intentions masked behind a veil of charm, he ensnared Dinah's unguarded spirit. His approach, though cloaked in interest, bore the heavy weight of desire, and soon her joy morphed into dread. That evening, the stars blinked down upon Dinah's return, but the radiance of the universe seemed dim against the pain resting upon her heart. A cruel act had stolen her peace. The news of her plight spread like wildfire through the camp, igniting a ferocity in her brothers, Simeon and Levi. Honoring their sister's defiled honor, grief transformed into a righteous anger, a protective fervor that could not be quenched. In their anguish, they devised a cunning ruse, approaching the men of Shechem, whose hearts were unaware of the storm that loomed. "Circumcise your males, and we will intermarry with you," they claimed, a deceitful proposal that masked the depths of their fury and despair. As the men of Shechem complied, the city fell into a false sense of tranquility. But while they celebrated, the brothers plotted a swift retribution. Once the pain of their covenant binding had taken hold, Simeon and Levi sprang forth with the fierce wrath of lions. The cries of the innocent soon mingled with the anguished wails of their kin, a haunting symphony that echoed through the willows, forever altering the landscape of their legacy. In the wake of violence, Jacob stood aghast, trembling under the weight of what had become of his family's honor. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the aftermath of that fateful night, Dinah's inner turmoil stood stark against the backdrop of silence, begging the question, what would emerge from such chaos? Among loss and betrayal, the threads of redemption began to weave through her shattered existence. Would there be a pathway lit by grace? The air was pregnant with tension and uncertainty, echoing with the weight of covenant responsibilities placed upon her father and his household. Inside Dinah's wounded heart, a longing for divine justice and reconciliation arose. Her tale, marked by darkness, would not go unheard, beckoning forth the promise of hope concealed in the shadows of human failing. The morning light broke upon the tents of Jacob, casting a golden hue upon the faces of those who rose from their slumber. Jacob, now heavily burdened by the weight of the violence that stained his household, gathered his sons. His voice trembled, echoing with paternal authority intertwined with distress. "Sons, what have you done?" he implored, his eyes deep with sorrow. "You have brought calamity upon us, and now the inhabitants of this land will gather against us." Simeon and Levi stood amid the tension, their hearts aflame with the fervor of their actions, yet a flicker of doubt ignited within them. "Father, can one defile our sister in such a manner and escape the wrath of our family?" they argued, trying to justify the balance of justice struck in the bloodshed. "We acted out of righteousness, out of love for Dinah." But Jacob's heart, heavy with dismay, could foresee the consequences of their immediate vengeance. We are but a small family, he warned, and if our brothers and neighbors unite against us, what will become of our name? The air hung thick with a palpable sense of dread, as the family gathered in silence, pondering the repercussions of their reckoning. As the sun marched higher, casting long shadows across the valley, Dinah emerged from the tent, her heart a conflicted battlefield. The sorrow that tangled within her soul was as profound as the scars that marked her. Beneath her composure lay a yearning for understanding, for peace in the midst of chaos. With a resolve born of anguish, she sought her brothers, driven by a desire to voice her tale. "Simeon, Levi," she called, voice steadier than her heart, "what you have done may restore my honor and blood, but what of my spirit? I am Dinah, beloved daughter of Jacob. Must my life be defined by retribution?" Her eyes gleamed as she approached them, daring them to see beyond their anger. "Shall we not seek a higher justice, one rooted in mercy?" The words pierced through the fog of vengeance that hung over them, evoking a moment of contemplation. Yet the bitterness of their recent deeds clung to them, refusing to let go. Still, Dinah's resolute spirit stirred their hearts, awakening a long-dormant thought: could there be redemption amidst the ash of destruction? Far off, the men of Shechem grieved for their brethren fallen, cloaked in greater rage than before. They resolved to raise their swords against Jacob's kin, their hearts steeped in vengeance, a blood debt unpayable by the sin of one man. Amid the growing tension, a messenger from afar brought news to Jacob: the Canaanites were gathering, united in anger against his family, yet it was not merely the gathering storm of men that hung over Jacob's family. At nightfall, as the fiery sun bowed to the horizon, the Lord spoke to Jacob in a dream. "Arise, go unto Bethel, and dwell there. Make an altar unto God, for I am with you, I will bless you and increase your posterity." A divine promise echoed into Jacob's weary heart, a reminder that the covenant remained intact despite their faltering steps. Renewed by God's assurance, Jacob called forth his household: "Put away your foreign gods, and cleanse yourselves, let us go to Bethel to worship." As they prepared for the journey, the air thrummed with a sense of divine purpose. Two paths lay before them, one shrouded in treachery and another beckoning them towards God's grace. In the quiet folds of Dinah's heart, a hidden truth began to surface, a flicker of hope that whispered through the discord. What if, she pondered, the Lord's designs intended something greater than retribution? Could he sow the seeds of reconciliation through our collective pain? Thus, with heavy hearts and uncertain futures, Jacob and his sons set forth toward Bethel, drawn by the guiding hand of a sovereign God. Unbeknownst to them, the journey would bear witness to divine intentions far beyond their understanding. The echoes of conflict would shape their legacy, yet the promise of restoration lingered in the air, waiting to unfurl. As they walked, the heavens watched and waited, hinting that God's unfolding plan was yet to be revealed. As Jacob and his household journeyed towards Bethel, the land beneath their feet seemed to whisper of the past and echo with the promise of the future. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm glow upon their weary forms. But as they traveled, a shadow loomed not just on the path before them but within their very hearts, each member grasping for understanding amid the grief and chaos they bore. Reaching a small clearing, Jacob paused, his aged hands trembling slightly as he stood before his sons. "Let us offer sacrifices to the God who has guided us through this perilous night," he instructed, his voice soft yet laden with authority. The boys nodded, their eyes heavy with reflection on their past deeds. Simeon, burdened by guilt and anger, glanced at Levi. "What sort of mercy can we seek after what we have done?" he asked, his voice tight with emotion. "Our hands are stained with blood, and the cries of the vanquished still haunt my ears." Levi turned towards his brother, his heart torn as well. "But what if Father is right? What if we can reclaim our honor and our family's name without further bloodshed?" Dinah spoke of mercy. "Perhaps we must seek it too." At that moment, Dinah emerged from the gathered family, her presence a balm to the turbulent hearts of her brothers. "I am your sister, a link in our family chain," she began, her voice steady like the river that carves its path through stone. "Together, we must carry the burden of our actions, but let it not define us. We can choose a different legacy. Her words wove an unexpected thread of hope into the tapestry of their despair, and Jacob, witnessing the profound moment, felt the Spirit of the Lord stir within him. Indeed, my children, the Lord has called us to be a people of covenant, not vengeance. We must let our actions reflect the mercy that He has shown us, he affirmed, a sense of renewed purpose swelling in his chest. As they built the altar, the air vibrated with a sacred intensity, the very presence of God encircling them. Jacob proclaimed aloud, "O Lord, God of Abraham and Isaac, I come before you as the father of a fractured household, pleading for peace and reconciliation." The flames of the sacrifices flickered, illuminating the dimming background, symbolizing their rising sincerity. Suddenly, a rustle from the bushes disrupted their sacred moment. The men of Shechem had come, a band of warriors, eager to avenge their kin. They advanced, weapons drawn, their faces a mixture of vengeance and fear. A palpable tension grasped the air, and each heart within Jacob's family raced as they faced the ever-present threat of annihilation. But from the midst of the chaos, a voice rang out, powerful and unwavering. "Fear not." It was Dinah who spoke, her faith igniting against the rising storm. "Our God is with us. What we have built on the altar today is more than a mere sacrifice, it is a covenant with our Creator. He will not permit our destruction for the sake of our faults." Her courage was contagious. Jacob and his sons felt a holy boldness unite their spirits, akin to the grandeur of their forefathers. With newfound courage, Jacob stepped forward, arms raised wide. "God of Israel, show these men that we seek peace, not war. Let your hand be upon us." With a sudden rumble of thunder, the skies darkened above, the wind stirred with divine fury, an echo of God's very presence. The men of Shechem hesitated, their hearts quivering as they grappled with the weight of what they might unleash upon the family of the Most High. In that moment of divine intervention, as the earth trembled beneath them, a truth dawned upon Dinah and her family: the fate of their lineage was about to be forever altered. For amid the trials of vengeance and conflict, the pathway to redemption had begun to take shape. What Jacob and his family would soon discover was that their tribulations were but the beginning of a larger divine narrative, one that would reverberate through generations and teach the world that even in the shadows of violence, the light of God's mercy would always seek to shine brighter. For neither conflict nor sin could thwart the sovereign plan of the Almighty, who was weaving their story into His eternal tapestry, and thus, their destinies hung in the balance, cloaked in mystery, awaiting the unfolding of God's majestic purpose through trials unforeseen. As the thunder rolled and the darkened sky weighed heavy upon them, the men of Shechem stood frozen, their resolve wavering under the weight of the Israelites' plea. Jacob, emboldened by the Spirit, continued to lift his voice in earnest prayer, his heart ever seeking God's favor. "O Lord, defend us against our foes, for we are but a small family seeking peace in a troubled land." His words cut through the tension, reaching the ears of the approaching warriors. Yet, they remained still, unsure of the path forward. Dinah stepped gently beside her father, her heart beating fiercely, and she raised her hand in a gesture of peace. "Brothers," she called, her voice steady and clear, offering a bridge over the chasm of hatred. "Let not the sins of our past govern our fate today. We are all God's creation. Is there not enough bloodshed in this world?" The warriors exchanged uneasy glances, their weapons slackening as her words took root in the soil of their hearts. This was a moment for awakening, a moment for wounds to be healed rather than deepened. "Listen!" one of the men from Shechem shouted. "Your sister's courage shames our thirst for vengeance. Is there not more strength in forgiving than in killing?" As the flames of the altar crackled, a breeze swept through the clearing, whispered prayers mingling with the scent of burnt offerings. Jacob gazed upon the faces of his family, humbled yet hopeful. "It is time for a covenant of our own," he declared, a spirit of unexpected unity enveloping them. "Let us speak to each other, not as enemies but as kin, with a yearning for understanding." Slowly, the men of Shechem lowered their weapons, curiosity flickering in their eyes. "What terms do you propose?" one warrior queried, his voice quaking between anger and vulnerability. In that sacred moment, Jacob offered a hand, a symbol of a new beginning, a token of trust. "We shall dwell together, sharing our lands, our burdens, and our futures. Let there be reconciliation, rather than a historical rift that only breeds more enmity. The atmosphere thickened with expectation, every soul present caught in the tapestry of divine providence. As the tension ebbed, Dinah dared to speak again. Allow us the chance to forge new paths. Let us live as the family God intended us to be, the children of Abraham, emissaries of peace rather than destruction. With her words ringing true, a semblance of unity emerged. The patriarchs of Shechem huddled together, sensing that something transformative hung in the air. Each day of life they lived would now chart a course in the annals of their heritage, harsh lessons yielding to profound wisdom, but Jacob, sensing a deeper stirring in his spirit, recalled the words of his grandfather Abraham, about the promises God made, a promise of nations to arise from his lineage. Something larger was at stake than just the healing of their family. God's sovereign plan spanned beyond personal grievances, venturing into nations and destinies. Brothers, let us not forget what has been said, Jacob began once more, the fire of revelation igniting within him. Our actions resonate in the heavens. The God of our fathers does not merely forge peace within our hearts, he is building nations from our oaths. Just then, a cloud broke momentarily, and sunlight pierced the dimness above as if heaven itself bore witness. Hope surged through the gathering, uniting both families as they contemplated a future free from the chains of ancestral bloodshed, yet, as they stood poised on the precipice of this newfound harmony, the shadows of their past lingered like specters waiting to ensnare the unwary. The journey ahead would require more than reconciliatory words, it would demand faith, courage, and endurance against what lay beneath the surface, and as Dinah felt the gaze of her brothers upon her, understanding that their destinies were now irrevocably entwined with God's intricate design, a question hung in the air, charged with divine mystery. In the depths of her heart, a truth whispered, what would the Almighty weave from the fabric of brokenness into His divine purpose, and who would rise to fulfill the calling that echoed through generations yet to come? As the sun dipped low upon the horizon, casting golden rays upon the assembly, Jacob felt the stirring of the Spirit deep within him. The men of Shechem, once filled with rage, now stood with uncertainty etched upon their faces, captivated by the weight of Dinah's words and the sincerity of Jacob's heart. What is this covenant you propose? Questioned the eldest of the Shechem warriors, his brow furrowed by years of conflict. An air of reluctance was palpable as their past grievances hung heavy like a shroud. Jacob looked into the eyes of the men before him, a reflection of the turmoil that once plagued his own heart. Let us agree to walk in the ways of peace, to honor one another as the progeny of Abraham, whose heart was turned toward mercy and righteousness, he intoned, his voice ringing with authority and hope. From the depths of his soul, he continued, for it is written, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Matthew 5 verse 9. Can we not aspire to be such sons today? The atmosphere shifted, uncertain as the hearts of men began to soften. Dinah stepped forth once more, her countenance radiant. Let not the blood of revenge spill upon our hands, she urged. Instead, let our houses be filled with the laughter of children, the promise of tomorrow, and the hope that God can turn our sorrow into joy. A collective silence enveloped the gathering, each individual pondering the weight of this proposal founded upon grace rather than retribution. At last, the leader of Shechem, moved by the Spirit, spoke. I am willing to embrace this vision of unity. Let our peoples be joined, that we may forge a new legacy. Yet, in the midst of this hopeful transformation, an unseen shadow loomed like a prophetic echo rippling through the air. As Jacob glanced to the west, a fierce wind began to rise, signaling a disturbance yet to come. The ground trembled beneath them, stirring the very fabric of their reality. Without warning, a neighboring tribe, emboldened by the upheaval they sensed, took their chance to strike. Their swords glimmered wickedly in the fading light. Jacob's heart sank as he recognized the truth that lingered just beneath their fragile peace. The covenants forged in the spirit of reconciliation would be tested. Stand firm, he shouted, unyielding faith igniting within him. We have sought peace with Shechem. Now we must defend it courageously. The men of Shechem, though filled with uncertain resolve, rallied at his command. Should we not fight for that which we have begun? They questioned, their voices a mixture of fear and newfound determination, emboldened by the fellowship Jacob had fostered in them. In that instant, Dinah grasped her father's arm, the fire of their mission burning bright in her heart. "Father! We must not lose our way to violence, let us stand together, not with swords, but with the might of our faith." As if the heavens were affirming her plea, a bright flash illuminated the sky. The clouds swirled in tumult, a tableau of divine will progressing towards them, urging their hearts to embrace peace even amidst impending wrath. In times of trouble, we must cling ever closer to the promises of God. Jacob proclaimed, raising his arm to the heavens. "He who covenants with us will not abandon his children, even when the storm clouds gather." Just then, a figure appeared on the horizon, a messenger, heralding a proclamation from God. They gazed in awe, hearts heavy yet filled with anticipation. What new revelation would unfold in their midst? What divine designs were aligned with their irrevocable choices? The path to peace was fraught with trials, yet Jacob's heart ignited with hope, knowing that the threads of their struggles would weave into the great tapestry of God's sovereign plan. This moment would not just define them as families but as a people bound to declare the goodness of the Lord through their lineage, a legacy that echoed beyond themselves into the fulfillment of nations yet unborn. Yet, as the messenger drew near, a question hung palpably in the air: what did God intend for those who sought peace amidst a raging storm? A divine mystery awaited revelation, a calling that trembled on the brink of an unfolding promise. As the messenger approached, a hush settled over both sides, for his presence carried an air of divine authority. Clad in garments that shimmered like the dawn, he raised his hands as if to bless them all. "Hear the word of the Lord, O sons of Jacob and of Shechem. For your hearts have sought reconciliation amidst a backdrop of strife. Behold, I bring you tidings of a new covenant, a covenant that shall not only bind your peoples but serve as a beacon unto nations." The collective breath of the assembly caught, their spirits rising as anticipation flooded their hearts. "This is a moment of grace," the messenger continued, his voice like thunder and yet gentle as a breeze. "Thus saith the Lord, I will establish peace between you, and your descendants shall prosper through harmony. Those who seek to strike you shall find their plans undone, for I shield those who walk in mercy." Jacob felt an igniting spark within him, ignited by the promise of divine protection. "Have courage, my brothers," he called out, the boldness of God's assurance emboldening him. "Let us not falter in our resolve to be agents of peace. As the heavens above have spoken, so shall we live according to their decree." Dinah, emboldened by her father's words, spoke up, "Father, let us strive to embody this agreement, not merely in words but in action. We must cultivate an alliance forged in love, where old grievances give way to the laughter of our children, where joy springs from the ashes of despair." As the men of Shechem rallied behind Jacob, a rhythm of murmurs filled the air: "We shall follow this path." Just then, the very earth beneath them trembled once more, a deep rumble echoing across the land. The neighboring tribe, sensing the gathering of unity and grace, advanced with ferocity. Jacob's heart quickened as their war cries rang out, yet within him a peace that transcended understanding took root. "Prepare yourselves, sons of Jacob," he urged. "Remember the covenant we have made, and let that be our strength. Stand firm in the faith that the Lord is with us." Then the messenger raised his voice, commanding their attention. "The trials that come to test you are but a shadow of the darkness, the light of God's promise will pierce it." Amid the turbulent chaos, Dinah gathered the women and children, leading them to safety as she continued to proclaim the hope of their covenant. "Trust in God's unshakable foundation, for he is our refuge and fortress," she cried, even as concern etched her brow. The clash of swords resonated like a storm unleashed, yet the hearts of those who sought peace remained steadfast. The Spirit of the Lord surged through them, igniting their spirits, their resolve unwavering in the face of impending conflict. In that moment, as dynamic as the lightning that lit the sky, Jacob began to realize the depth of God's plan unfolding: the preservation of their lineage, the sanctity of the covenant, and the establishment of a legacy born not of violence, but of profound love and faith. As the chaotic noise settled and silence blanketed the scene, the messenger turned to Jacob once more. His expression unwavering in solemnity. You shall not fight this battle alone, for God himself shall rise to your aid. Thus says the Lord, the peace you seek is but the beginning. For through you, nations shall be born to carry forth my promise. A new mystery took hold within Jacob's soul, threaded with divine purpose. What other work lay scripted in the heavens for their family? What further revelations awaited those who walked the path of peace? Hope intertwined with trepidation, and Jacob felt the stirrings of God's sovereign design whispering beneath the surface, waiting to be unveiled with each step they took. The ground trembled as the clash of steel and the shouts of men filled the air, a cacophony that threatened to drown the promise of peace which had just been declared. The hearts of Jacob's sons beat wildly, yet they remained rooted as if the very arms of God encompassed them. Remember the words spoken. We are not alone. Jacob urged his sons, his voice rising above the din, a rallying cry forged in faith. Our God, who delivered our forefathers from the hand of Egypt, now fights for us. Let not your hearts be troubled, hold your ground. The men of Shechem advanced, faces wild with fury, yet as they drew closer, a wind swept through the ranks of Jacob's men, a strong and mighty gale filled with the presence of the Almighty. Their resolve was further bolstered by the sight of the messenger, whose countenance shone bright amidst the shadows of despair. Stand firm. The messenger proclaimed, raising a hand toward the swirling dust. For the Lord shall lift the veil that separates your eyes from the truth. Look and see what the divine has prepared before you. As if compelled by unseen hands, Jacob turned his eyes toward the horizon. There, unexpectedly, the sun broke through the clouded skies, illuminating the path before them. What they had planned to be a simple gathering for peace had ignited a firestorm of divine presence, shifting the course of their destiny. From the chaos, a voice rose, the voice of Dinah. What is power without justice? What is strength without mercy? She cried, her voice cutting through the noise like a sword of truth. The men turned to her, disarmed by the clarity in her eyes, for she spoke not only from her heart but with the wisdom imparted by God. Father, the call for peace is a powerful weapon. Instead of bloodshed, let us lay down our swords and search for reconciliation. As tremors of doubt flickered through the gathering, Jacob's heart soared with pride. My daughter speaks truth. Let us not let our legacy be stained with violence. Shall we not listen to her? The neighboring tribe hesitated, confusion rippling through their ranks as they considered the call to peace. Those who had sharpened their swords now softened their hearts, drawn by the compelling nature of mercy embodied in Dinah. Yet still there were voices of dissent, those who would not yield to the tide of divine conviction. Are we to turn our backs whilst they mock us? A warrior of Shechem bellowed, his fury not easily quenched. The tension hung thick as arrows remained nocked, poised on the edge of vengeance, but Jacob stepped forward, his voice infused with authority. The man who seeks vengeance will be the most bitter of all. Let us remember our covenant with the Most High. For God desires mercy, not sacrifice. The air grew heavy with anticipation as the men of Shechem deliberated, their eyes fixed on Jacob and his family. Would they march forth into bloodshed, or would they heed the call for peace? Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook again, not with the tremors of battle, but with the sound of thunder rolling across the plains. And in that moment of uncertainty, a new revelation lit up the hearts of many. The air was charged with possibilities, dimensions of faith and courage yet unseen. What if, one of Jacob's sons whispered to his brothers, we extend the hand of friendship even now, trusting in the divine promise. A murmur of agreement passed like a ripple through the assembly, and as the messenger stepped down, his presence was filled with the resolve that flows from the Most High. The Lord is doing a new thing, he proclaimed. This is but the beginning of his work. Through you shall come a light unto the nations. The decision you make today shall echo through generations to come. In that pregnant silence, a profound weight settled upon them, the dawning realization of their collective destiny as a chosen lineage. In the heart of confusion, God's plan unraveled before them, shimmering like stars against a dark night, and Jacob, bolstered by revelation, spoke forth with newfound hope. Brothers and sisters, we are not merely a family. We are the agents of God's covenant. As we choose peace today, what other glories will unfold from our humble obedience? What truths lay hidden yet await our grasp? The assembly stood at the precipice of divine action, hearts beating as one in anticipation of what lay ahead. Unbeknownst to them, a journey full of revelations awaited each step, unraveling the mystery of God's sovereign purpose, each choice fostering a legacy of grace. For they were more than survivors of a conflict, they were the bearers of a promise, destined to change the course of history itself. What greater task was set before them, woven intricately into the tapestry of God's plan? As the tremors of uncertainty faded into the distance, a solemn hush fell upon both camps. The hearts of Jacob's sons quickened, an unspoken agreement binding them together as they stood in unity before their father. Then, Dinah, emboldened by the Spirit of the Almighty, stepped forward, her countenance radiating with a fierce grace. "O men of Shechem," she called out, her voice firm yet tender, "I stand before you not merely as Jacob's daughter but as one who longs for harmony, a peace that transcends bloodshed and sorrow. Will you not hear my plea?" Her words pierced the hearts of many, and the men of Shechem found themselves grappling with an unfamiliar weight of guilt and conviction. As their eyes met hers, the steely resolve of vengeance softened, and for a brief moment, they glimpsed the glimmer of hope that came with her vision of reconciliation. Yet amid this moment of clarity, the voice of the dissenting warrior rose again, stoking the flames of discord. "Dinah," he shouted, "your words are but honeyed poison. Our honor has been besmirched. How shall we be seen, if we lay down our arms and embrace our enemies? Our fathers fought for their name, must we not do the same?" At these words, a ripple of unrest traveled through the hearts of the men. The tension that held them captive was palpable, thick as the dust swirling around their feet. But Jacob, emboldened by Dinah's plea, advanced with a passion fueled by divine purpose. "Woe unto the man who clings to anger and forgets the Lord's mercy," he declared, raising his hand to silence the rising tempests of dissent. "We do not remove our honor in choosing peace, rather, we fulfill the greater promise of God's covenant. The Lord has sought to bless us, to multiply us as stars in the sky. Will we squander his favor for the sake of fleeting pride?" A murmur of doubt danced through the ranks, but Dinah, inspired by her father's words, pressed onward. "Let us be the generation that rewrites our lineage," she implored. "Imagine a legacy defined not by vengeance but by compassion, a lineage that stands as a beacon of light to all nations." And as she spoke, the heavens answered. The clouds that had gathered overhead parted, casting radiant beams of light upon the assembly, illuminating the faces of the doubters with a divine glow. As the sun shone upon them, the courageous men of Shechem exchanged glances fraught with uncertainty and dawning revelation. One by one, hearts began to turn. "Shall we surrender our bitterness for a vow of peace?" Another voice called out, trembling yet resolute. "Yes." The crowd began to murmur, a chorus of voices rising in affirmation, gaining strength with each utterance. "Let us seek the Lord's favor, for who are we to thwart his divine will?" In that moment, the air crackled with an electric resolve, transforming doubt into an unmistakable spirit of unity. Dinah's courage and Jacob's unwavering faith sowed seeds of a newfound destiny, each word vocalizing their hope and longing to align with the divine's plans. But amidst the growing affirmation, just as clarity seemed to crown their moment of triumph, a tumultuous wind blew, stirring the dust into a tempest. The messenger, awash in an ether of divine light, raised his voice once more. "The Lord is indeed doing a new thing. But beware, for the enemy is ever watchful, and your choice today draws the line of a greater battle to come." Silent gasps echoed through the assembly as the weight of his words bore down heavily upon them. Could they truly bear the mantle of this profound responsibility? Yet even within the uncertainty, a flicker of divine trust ignited within Jacob. "Let us trust in the Lord, for he has promised us more than we can understand," he said resolutely. "As we yield our swords, we shall see his hand at work." And thus, in their moment of surrender to divine peace, the call for a covenant of flesh and spirit emerged, a bond that could withstand future trials, echoing through generations yet to come. For in divine obedience, even through the veil of darkness, light was forging a path that would resound. Throughout the ages, what new chapter awaited this beleaguered family? The shadows of uncertainties loomed as the true measure of their hearts was yet to be revealed, for the moments of faith they were stepping into were mere beginnings of what God would accomplish through them in fulfillment of his sovereign plan. As the murmurs of agreement faded, an atmosphere thick with anticipation enveloped the assembly. Jacob, with eyes lifted to the heavens, breathed in the moment a sacred pause as he sought guidance from the Almighty. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that danced upon the ground, reminiscent of the battles fought and the tears shed. Men of Shechem, Dinah began again, her voice as steady as a mountain brook. Let us embark on this covenant of peace with the knowledge that the Lord sees our hearts. Let us commit our ways unto him, for it is he who knows the paths we must walk. As she spoke, her eyes sparkled with the kind of steely resolve that comes from a heart touched by God's grace. From the ranks of Jacob's sons, Levi and Simeon stepped forward with a newfound purpose, emboldened by the stirring of the Spirit. Let us not be deaf to the calling of our sister, nor to our father's words. We are a family, joined not just by blood but by the promise of God, they declared in unison, their voices resonating like the sound of a mighty tempest, yet tempered with the gentleness of a refreshing rain, but the dissenting voice, still lurking like a storm cloud, rose once more. What will become of us when our enemies see our weakness? Is the legacy of our fathers to be cast aside in the name of peace? Shall we not fight for honor? The tension thickened as the heart of Shechem wrestled between pride and humility, vengeance and mercy. But Jacob, drawing nearer, spoke with the gravity of a patriarch. The Lord has called us to be peacemakers, even as he was merciful unto us. This is no weakness, but rather strength under the guidance of the Holy One who walks with us. A profound silence stretched over the assembly, holding in it the weight of past transgressions and the hope of future redemption. At that moment, the messenger, still cloaked in divine radiance, raised his scepter high, silencing the chaos of doubt. Indeed, the Lord has set before you a choice path that branches in two. One leads to destruction, woven with the threads of anger, the other to life abundant, draped in the garb of reconciliation. With each word spoken, the hearts hardened by conflict began to soften, like wax before a flame. Let us honor this path of peace, cried Dinah, her voice breaking through the tumult. Honor in humility, honor in unity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the firmament, the men of Shechem began to shift. One by one, they lowered their weapons, handing them over like sacrifices upon the altar. Hope rekindled in their hearts, a sliver of light peeked through the heavy clouds of doubt, affirming the truth that, perhaps, God's plan was destined for greater glory. Yet amidst the growing solidarity, a lurking shadow was unseen, a harbinger of the trials that were to come. A distant rumbling echoed like the growl of a great beast hidden among the hills, alerting all to the presence of a powerful foe. Jacob, sensing the stirring of danger, turned his gaze towards the horizon. Beware! For the enemy prowls, seeking whom he may devour. Stay vigilant, my sons. And in the middle of this moment, as darkness threatened to infringe upon their fragile peace, a whisper from heaven broke through the rising storm. For I know the plans I have for you, a voice spoke, steady as a firm foundation, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. As the assembly stood, hearts entwined in the pursuit of a covenant forged in God's purpose, one truth remained unyielding: this was but the beginning, for the struggles ahead would forge a deeper faith. They sensed the weight of divine promise resting upon them and the shadows murmuring secrets of a fierce battle yet to unfold. What then would become of this patched-together family? For in the tale of their commitment to peace, shadows loomed larger, and the plans of God were only beginning to unfurl. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, bathing the world in a soft golden glow, Jacob gathered his family and the men of Shechem, their hearts still resonating with the Spirit's call for peace. The shadows of conflict hung thick in the air, but with hope ignited anew, they anticipated a transformation that could change the course of their lineage forever. Men of Shechem, Jacob addressed them, his voice echoing with the weight of a father and a leader. The God of our forefathers has granted us a chance to rewrite our destinies through mercy and unity. Let us not squander this divine opportunity. The energy around them crackled like a divine promise, reminding all present that the path they chose held the potential to ripple through generations yet unborn. Dinah stepped forward again, her heart ablaze with a desire to see her family restored. Let us remember that it is our choice to embrace peace that will secure our future. A legacy bound in love will be richer than one drenched in blood. Her eyes shone with fervent hope, stirring a flame within the hearts of all gathered. A hush swept over the crowd, and the voice of a warrior from Shechem rose amidst the stillness. What shall we do from here? How do we ensure that this peace we cling to is not merely fragile, but fortified? He searched Jacob's eyes, seeking vision amid uncertainty. In that sacred moment, a profound wisdom descended upon Jacob. We must covenant ourselves to one another not merely in words but with lives entwined through trust and shared paths. Let our children grow side by side, so that they may know unity rather than division. His words reverberated, solidifying something deep within the collective spirit of those assembled, and so, the families began to lay the groundwork for a lasting peace. They spoke of shared lands, of mutual protection, and of frequent gatherings of laughter and joy, where swords would yield to embraces. Simultaneously, Jacob and the leaders of Shechem devised strategies to strengthen their bond through trade and cooperation, creating ties that would bind them as allies rather than foes. Yet peace birthed its own trials, and as the assembly began to disperse, the distant growl of thunder echoed ominously across the valley. Jacob felt his heart stir. The enemy has not fled, it only awaits an opportunity to exploit our vulnerability. We must be vigilant. He warned, recalling the recent tumult that had nearly torn their families apart. Yes. Dinah interjected, emboldened by the Spirit's presence. And let our vigilance not be accompanied by fear, but by faith. We have seen the Lord's hand upon us. We shall be defenders of this peace we have pledged. Her voice rang with conviction, as memories of the conflict that had once cloaked her heart in sorrow were replaced by the promise of a new dawn. As the families departed, every heart echoed her fervor. With the bonds of their renewed covenant sealing their fates, they ventured back to their respective homes, envisioning a future where anger would no longer reign. And behold, as days turned into weeks and weeks into years, the townsfolk watched in awe as the union between Jacob's family and the men of Shechem flourished. From the ashes of violence arose vibrant marketplaces, laughter in their streets, and children who played together. As the years passed, Dinah became revered not merely as Jacob's daughter, but as a beacon of hope and reconciliation, a testament to the power of her unwavering spirit and the transformative nature of God's love. She spoke often of the promise that reverberated throughout their families, encouraging peace and unity wherever she wandered. In time, the legacy of Jacob and Shechem transformed into one that inspired countless others, a lineage founded not on the bitterness of retribution, but on the grace of reconciliation, as generations came to understand that true strength lay in the courage to forgive. In this way, God fulfilled his promises, bringing the light of hope to the very places darkness had once threatened to consume. And through the tapestry of time, Dinah's story resounded, reminding every heart that even amidst strife, the Almighty weaves a divine narrative that echoes through eternity, where love overcomes all. As you reflect on this profound testimony of faith and transformation, remember the power of reconciliation in your lives. Subscribe immediately to this channel, so you don't miss the next powerful biblical stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like now, for it helps us spread God's word through the algorithm to reach more souls for Christ. Comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this story of Dinah and her family impacted your faith journey? And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Your actions help pave the way for others to discover the light of Christ.